Commissioner Phelps,
Present.
Chairperson Barton,
Present.
Commissioner Coppinger,
Present. Attorney Phelan.
Present.
Lieutenant Holey,
Any representative?
okay.
All right, at this time, we don't have any minutes to accept, so we'll table that for the next meeting. The one-day license for, we have a couple, few of them. One-day license for Center Board, Saturday, July 20th, Friday, July 20th, and Saturday, July 28th. Arts After Hours at the Lynn Museum, Backyard Bash for July 14th, and a one-day license for Arts After Hours. A cabaret concert on July 28th from 8 to 10 p.m. Motion for you to accept.
Motion approved for applications.
Yeah, four.
Motion, yeah, 2%.
Okay, right, that. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go, we'll take, Attorney Vitale and his
Suspend the rules.
suspend the order of the agenda and, Attorney Vitale?
Yes.
Alright, come on. Definitely
I'll
be
give it to
representing, but
This one?
this one.
No, this. The big one.
Liberty Street and Central Ave.
Liberty Street, Central Ave?
Yes.
All right, this is the one, yes, yep. Okay.
I appreciate the board taking me on the list.
Mhm.
It's a special meeting of the Board of Appeals because of a problem they had at the regular meeting last week. And the only item on the agenda is the matter that I'm dealing with, so I told them I'd try to get there as quickly as I could. This matter, with respect to Central Ave, was continued by the board. At that time, I had with me, and I believe they're here, Javier and his wife, Rahida. I think I pointed out to you that she is TIPS trained.
Can I just, Madam Chairperson, we had tabled this, sorry.
Right, because they're going before,
To ask
right,
our attorney whether it's had to go before the city council.
It's the opinion of the law department that it does need to go in front. I know there's a differing view on
Is
this.
it writing the opinion?
No, it is not. And it's for a variety of reasons on that, but the bottom line is that it should go in front of the council for a special permit. And because of the issue that food can be served, and it can be served at a later date, and if you, and I did check this, the majority of 17 markets I went to and drove to and checked, and most of them did have, they were serving food. And that can be done on a secondary basis, and there are actions that you can take if you disagree with the opinion, but that is the opinion of the law department.
Well, I've not seen that opinion. Let me, then, apparently you haven't either. So, it's my turn at bat. I just want to show you why I reason to that. And you're right, there are things I can do, such as a declaratory judgment. Right, this is the Lynn zone rules. These are the definitions. This is the definition of food establishment. It says that any place where food is prepared, it goes on, and it lists restaurants, sandwich shops, steakhouses. This term does not include retail food stores. That's the definition. You go to the next section. This is the what they call a table of uses in the zone ordinance. And every use is listed. When you're down in the central business district, you come to retail stores, and you'll see it says P, permitted. Then you go, there are, within that definition of businesses, there's a definition of a retail store. It sells neighborhood groceries. That's a business use that is a permitted use in the central business district, which is where this address is. And so is a food establishment, which repeats, this term does not include retail food stores. You go to special permits, there are certain things, carousels, carnivals, earth removal, as Commissioner Coppinger knows, having been a city councilor and the council president. And it says the permission of the city council shall be required for any use, and it lists these. I don't even know what a dyer's establishment is, or a feed establishment. a stable, a stonemason, and then it says, a food establishment where alcoholic beverages in addition to food are served. Then there's a second section that says, in terms of, this is 13.5 of the zone ordinance, it says permission of city council is required for a food establishment, either with or without alcoholic beverages. But if you're not a food establishment, which a retail food store is not, then you don't need council consent. And since I don't have anything in writing, this may well be, if you draw a call whether you want to proceed, because there are lots of people here who want to be heard on this. But as to our position is, that's still in zone ordinance. And if it's not there, it's not there.
It's the opinion is the opinion of the law department.
And I think past practice we do hold the opinion about law department.
Can I just ask Attorney Fields one question? I could be mistaken, but what has the past practice been regarding these licenses initially?
They've always been to receive special permits. Now, this is the first time that it was brought forward, and I believe it came forward from Attorney Myhos to Attorney Vitale, as he indicated, it was the first impression. But the food preparation at these establishments, when it's prepared, it needs the food inspector to come in from the health department also. So I mean, and that's at the retail stores. So when they step over that particular line, and when I say anything that's prepared there, as soon as that microwave's there, when popcorn's done, when anything else is done, it has to be inspected by the food inspector, and that's the intent of that, and that will be reduced to writing. But I just wanted to make sure that was the opinion of the law department at this time.
I don't have any other questions. I would make a motion then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Officer, there is one person here that requested to speak, so.
I beg the board's pardon, I was a little tardy in my entrance. If this is the matter pertaining to the liquor license of beverage convenience store, I just wanted to go on record representing my client, Empress Perez. I've been investigating the issue, and as far as Mr. Empress Perez is concerned, we maintain our position that he does have an ownership interest in this liquor license, that it is not exclusively owned by Jose Perez, as represented in the papers that I understand have in fact been submitted. I have not been able to receive word back from Paul Capersho at the ABC board. However, I do have information as well in connection with a related bankruptcy proceeding that in fact Mr. Jose Perez did acknowledge that there was a joint ownership interest held between both parties. And in addition, it's also my understanding, having tracked somewhat the ownership interest with the city clerk's office, that since 2007, there was a renewal application listing Mr. Empress Perez not only as a manager, but as a person of interest, and at one point as an owner. So in addition to the special permit issue, which I know is present, I would ask for some additional time and a continuance to flush all of this stuff out, so that if a transfer is effective, it's not defective in any manner. So I just wanted to represent our position to the board as well.
Do you have those bankruptcy documents?
I was able today to get an email from the attorney of record with respect to.
I have a copy of the petition. He does list it, Attorney Gold Alexander, I represent Jose Perez, sorry. And this is a copy of Schedule B, Mr. Empress Perez's Chapter 7 petition where he listed beer and wine license with Jose Perez. We object to their position that he has an ownership interest. Our position is that whatever interest he claims he had on his petition is outside the exemptions that were claimed by him in the bankruptcy court.
I just need the case number so that I can look that up.
Okay.
Okay, copy of this?
That's my only copy.
Yeah, just a document on that.
Okay. In
connection with this petition, there were some additional issues raised as far as outstanding indebtedness to liquor distributors, namely Martinetti's Liquors and I believe Seacoast Liquors. So at the very least, it indicates that there are some encumbrances that still have to be addressed prior to appropriate or either transfer of the liquor license.
I believe those indebtedness would be discharged in Mr. Perez's bankruptcy filing, under Chapter 7.
Well, that'll give me a chance to see in writing what the law department says and to get a declaratory judgment from the guy who wears a black robe, who'll tell us what the reason is.
And that's your right.
That's fine. Can
Go
I just
ahead.
make a comment, Attorney? I mean,
If there's a differing opinion, then that's fine.
Right.
just a couple of things that, Attorney Kelly, I'm certainly no expert on the zoning ordinance. We'll stipulate that, but I know that as long as I've been around, these initial applications for licenses, for special permits, have gone before the city council, which I think is important. There are different levels of notification. When the butters, et cetera, are notified, the city council is the legislative body of the city that's always been responsible for issuing special permits. I think initially, before a license is in any location, it belongs before them, so that they can take a different look. So there can be a forum in City Hall, public hearing, et cetera, on whether that type of license belongs in their property whatsoever. We've heard the opinion of our attorney. I think we have to support that. Frankly, I think it's the right thing.
Well, I'd like to see it
But
in writing. I'd like to see him cite me a section of the Lynn zoning ordinance where it says it's required.
I'm sure they'll give you that information.
And then when I do get that, a declaratory judgment is not an adversarial
I understand
proceeding.
that,
It
sure.
says we're in doubt, tell us
Yeah.
what it means.
It means-
I mean, I think it means what it says.
Yeah. But I think if that does happen, if you should prevail, then I think we have to look at our rules too, and maybe adjust things for the same.
Well, I don't question your
notification as the
authority,
city
I'm
council.
just saying that whether you have authority, whether the city council has authority, it has to originate from somewhere.
Agreed.
And that, right now, is the zone ordinance,
Mhm.
which was just literally adopted in its present form within the last month.
Okay.
So, it's as up to date as they have. If they have to do something further with it, so be it. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm going by what it is.
It's fine. I just think it's a major change for this board and the city council. It needs a little more discussion before we know exactly what's happening.
If I had had the benefit of an opinion from the city solicitor, then I could have addressed it specifically.
Sure.
But I just wanted you to know that it's not made up of whole cloth, it's right out of the ordinance.
Okay.
And when it says, does not apply to retail food stores, that's what it says.
Yeah.
But this other issue, I think I addressed the last time. We have an agreement to buy the license. We've had this happen in the past. This is a license that's within the court, it's not a new license, it is a new location. But if you remember when we did the old Blue Moon, there was somebody showed up at that hearing and said, oh, I got an interest in the license, okay? And I said to you then, and I say to you now, we'll pay whoever owns the license the agreed upon price for the license. So if it's in bankruptcy court or it's in dispute,
I think you're correct on
we'll
that.
pay whoever has the right to solve it. So if the board wishes to honor that request, I join in that request so they can solve that problem, but also I get a chance to see on what basis that somebody thinks that the Lynn zoning ordinance requires council consent.
Okay. But I hope that you understand that the position of this board is that this matter belongs before the city council before it can come here, which may be subject to some debate.
Right.
But as far as I think the three of us are concerned, right now, it belongs over there before it comes here.
Well, certainly my position is that the establishment of the ownership interest is a precursor, but certainly so long as we're able to flush out the determinative positions of all the parties involved, then certainly we understand.
Okay. Make a motion to continue this and to refer the petitions back to the city council. Pending further action.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Excuse me, so is that to continue it generally?
Well, it's, our position is it goes to the
Right,
city
city
council,
council.
which is.
So now Attorney Vitale will
Take whatever
take that,
Yes.
okay. Okay,
So
thank you.
in that,
Could
in
be in for a
that,
long process.
I hope
so
not.
in that regard, will next be heard before the city council? or
Yes, if we prevail, our position now is that it belongs there. There will be a public hearing held before the city council for a special permit to allow them, make sure that the language.
Hopefully you people can work out your differences so that when it does come before
And
here.
no
Well,
discussion
certainly we
Just-
wanna, don't have that.
He just means forever God when he says a long process. Attorney Vitale, that's what he meant by that. I'm sorry, but I know him.
See if something's there that applies for it.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, that's next one anyway.
We don't have to deal with it.
So next one. Oh, this goes together. That is? Yes.
No, that's a separate. That's a separate.
So now it's
I know it's
taken
your
out of
hotel.
the-
No, I know that, I was there the other day. What happened?
Yeah, what I was saying is
Attorney is
forever God. It's not,
Yeah.
not being interpreted or commented either. It's just a different
Yeah,
subject.
I was over there.
License.
Yeah.
Attorney Vitale.
Yes, we have one other, and these folks are here. This is the next one, and I, again, thank you for your indulgence. This won't take long, I hope. This is a matter that had been on an agenda, but it was wrongly mentioned, noticed for, I think, for May the 3rd. And it never made it. There were two of them that had that happen. One, I think I waived it, at the, I can't even remember who it was, but we waived it. These folks never got to that point, so they're on for tonight, and that's the J Pacifica, and the manager is here, along with his son Dave. I've read the report. I don't have any questions. I don't see Lieutenant Holy, but I don't have any questions with respect to the report. I met with these folks, come on up, and I had seen that the board had acted before when the manager was here, and I think he was here by himself. I don't know the last time he was here, whether he was represented or whether you were with him.
Someone else.
David speaks English a lot better than his dad.
Another person, but.
Yeah, okay. So, I'm not gonna go back over that one, other than to say that the outcome of that one was that the board made a finding that a violation occurred and held in abeyance 3 days, okay? So now we come back and they have this report. One of the first things I suggested to these folks that they did was that I had every member of the staff get TIPS trained. And these are the certificates, all of them, okay? Because it was apparent to me, whether it's a breakdown of language or communication between the bartender, the barmaid, the waitress, and the manager. So they got to all get on the same page, and they did, okay? Next was a reasonable inference was drawn, I think, by the police. They came in and they saw, I think what they call a scorpion bowl, and they had 4 straws in it. And there was a group of 4 people. They asked for IDs, and 3 of them were of age and showed the IDs. One individual said 3 or 4 things. He said, I wasn't drinking from the scorpion bowl. I was served a beer, and I had an ID, or I didn't get ID. And they police searched him at some point, and it was an ID, but it wasn't for him, for that individual. So, none of us were there. So I said, look, there's other ways to establish certain things. And the first is, and I'm familiar because I go into the place, that, and I had them bring me, I won't out them as far as their sales, but other than to say, I'd be glad to show you that they sell substantially more food than alcohol. And if you've been in the place, the bar is a much smaller area. That's not to say that people don't go in and buy food and sit down and order these exotic drinks, I guess you call them, okay? But I make this point for two reasons. One's to show you that it is a place that's a food establishment and a restaurant, and not necessarily just a touring spot. And the second is when I come to what I think would be a fair resolution. You could see that what I propose is going to cost them more than what you might do, okay? But I wanted to know about the 4 straws, okay? And what they told me was that there had been an order of 2 scorpion bowls. All right, so I said, show me, and they have. So an order came out, it has 2 straws in it, okay? They ordered another scorpion bowl, it came out, okay? And this was close to closing time. This is the 2 scorpion bowls. And to try and put it in context, I got the, see how this is 2059? This is that's the receipt number. This is the one after that. And I don't want to divulge somebody's credit card number, but this is like the patron after that. That's 2060, okay? I'll tell you one thing I didn't find. I didn't find a sale of a beer, all right? And I don't think there was a beer glass or a beer bottle. They serve beer not in cans. They do sell it in bottles, but generally you can get a plastic cup. So rather than, because of the first instance, which I think they had a better defense in, but I can't retry that. And given the finding on that, I think the only question now is, what's the punishment? Because we acknowledge that I said to them, it's not the scorpion bowl. It's the kid and the waitress saying about the beer. All right? Even though I can't find it, 2 people said it happened. So I accepted that happened. All right? So if that happened, that's a second violation. You have discretion within your rules. And so let me propose what I think is a fair resolution that indicates the seriousness that they understand and that they have in good faith followed up and gotten the tips training, and that is this, that we're prepared to close the restaurant, not to stop selling alcohol, but to close on July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. That's 3 days, which they didn't serve and you wanted them to serve, but you wanted them to have no bar opening, and I'm saying to you that they'll close. And they'll have no bar or food. And if you know anything about Chinese restaurants, you know this. They're open on Christmas, they're open every day of the year, all right? And that's one of the reasons they serve public convenience, because people who may not be Christians and want to go out, I've tried this I'm a Christian, but I went out on a Christmas day once, and the only places I could find out were with a Kowloon. All right? I went up and down Route 1 on Christmas Day. And Chinese restaurants are open, all right? So closing, and based upon, as I can show you these sales, that is going to be a substantial financial hit if you were to agree to my suggestion that they close entirely and do it for 3 days and acknowledge that even though we can't find an actual sale of a beer, the kid said he had a beer and the waitress said he'd been ID'd before and clearly he was using somebody else's ID.
An expired ID.
Yeah, I mean, it's different query somebody's ID.
Right, but it was expired.
I happen to, believe it or not, know some of these kids. They travel in the same circles, which is often the case.
No, just one point for the board, this Detective Chris Hackey, he was on scene with Detective Kelton for that, and take you into, if there's any questions.
I know this kid well. I mean, to me, you know, he looks like he's 19 or 20 years old, I guess. So I'm not disputing that he's of age at all.
Can I ask?
Yes, sir.
You saw the ID?
Yes,
Was it expired?
yes,
And were you present when the conversation occurred with the waitress?
and Officer Calvi, yes.
You were present when you witnessed that?
Yes,
And as depicted in the police report, which he indicated that he had been ID'd before
yes,
and admitted to serving?
correct.
I feel very comfortable with the police report. I mean, it's right there, black and white. It's pretty straightforward. It is their second offense for the exact same situation, serving minors, and that's very serious. I'm glad to see that you have made sure that everyone's taking their tip training, but I do think that they do have to serve the 3-day suspension. And I also think that additional time should be added on to be held in abeyance. And with any further violations of this nature, I mean, this is serious, 7 minors. And I think we do need to be looking at litigation possibilities.
I just have one question, Madam Chairperson, if I can. It's a very good thing that you went and had everybody tips training, that's good stuff. Have you had occasion yet to get all your staff together and talk to them about what happened and make sure they understand what has to be done in the future?
I also did, I got a copy from Debbie and provided the managers with the most current copy of the board's rules. And I showed them what the chairwoman is saying in terms of what the penalty structure is and how seriously it would regard this. But, you know, from my experience, the one concern is in my judgment, is the closeness of these events. And the police would have better information than me. But I can tell you, when the word gets out on the street about places, okay? And I find it hard to believe that that's the case at the Jacobson. They haven't had a violation in many, many years. And I understand how it looks when you have one here and then 3 months later it's similar. But to me, that's an aberration. But it has to be dealt with. And I think that was a step. I think this is a step. I think having David help me explain it to his father is a step. And to me, the real problem is the coordination. We talked about this before. Who's checking IDs? Okay, it's fine. I think you understand. It looked like the procedure would work because the waitress is the one at a table who should check the ID. But her answer was, well, I had, and he hadn't, but it wasn't him.
Can I just get an answer to the question I asked about, have you had a chance to talk to the staff and make sure they all understand?
Yeah, he went out to them, got together as a group, and they had discussed the issue. And he warned them if it happened again, then there would be serious consequences. He was really upset about that. So.
But does everyone who works there
Yeah, they understand
what happened?
Mm-hmm.
They understand what they have to do to prevent it from happening again?
I can just make a comment, even though I may not look like it, I do occasionally eat Chinese food. They are in my neighborhood, and I can tell you I have seen personally, over the last 3 weeks, the waitress actually looks at an ID under the light and looks at the person. So in my opinion, they have been spoken to. Anyone that looks like they need an ID is being checked and being checked the proper way, not just looking at a date and giving it back.
There has to be accountability. What troubled me, okay, is this, the bartender saying,
Right,
I'm Ed,
yeah.
and the waitress saying, yeah, but, and nobody did.
Yeah.
Second,
Right.
third, and fourth. Third is, that's a very busy night for them, isn't it?
I talk with them, usually open every day of the year because that's the nature of their business. I said that they had to demonstrate that they understood the seriousness. And they brought me this because I wanted to be sure that my supposition was correct, that they are much, much more in the food business than they are in the alcohol business. So the inability to sell food is going to hurt them a lot more than the inability to not sell alcohol.
When you say that they do want to suspend the just if they can't serve
You
alcohol.
said you're gonna close the place completely. No food.
When we say it, when we say we have a 2-day suspension, it's just if they can't serve alcohol, are we actually closing the establishment?
Suspend their common victuals license also.
Okay. So they're,
I'll make a motion, we accept Commissioner Thompson, accept Attorney Vitale's proposal.
A second.
So we'll come see Debbie on, I think, Monday, July 1st, and bring the license in at the close of business or the first thing on the morning of April, July the 2nd. And then we'll pick it up on the morning of Thursday, July the 5th. And there'll be no appeal.
okay.
Aye.
Was there a finding that a violation would occur though? Was there that in the motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we'll put that in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I gotta talk to you.
Are we allowed to just say, oh, okay.
Okay, here we have an application for a common victular, Payne Auto Auction and Post Corporation. Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Well, thank you.
Please forgive my casual attire. I've been working with contractors all day. I own property.
Work is a good thing. Okay. Want to just tell us about your establishment?
Sure. We are bringing an auto auction back to the Linway property. They left, the Linway Auto Auction left for Billerica, and we have reached an agreement to lease the property at 732R Linway and bring Payne Auto Auction into Lynn, bringing back many jobs to the city. As part of that, there is a cafeteria in the property, and we would like to operate that cafeteria Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. roughly until 5 p.m.
No, you said Monday through Friday, 9 to 5?
7.
7 to 5, sir.
What type of food do you have?
I think historically it's been hamburgers, hot dogs. On a really hot day, they'll give out popsicles and sodas.
Do you have a regular food service for the kitchen? Everything set up?
They do have a kitchen set up. I think historically it's not been, they don't want people sitting in the cafeteria for long periods of time, because if they're sitting in there, they're not bidding on cars. So
So you're actually selling food there?
We'll be selling
down?
food, yes.
This is really for your customers, for people who come in that are gonna wanna bid on.
people will be there on auction day for 5 or 6 hours at a time, or longer. They'll probably get hungry, and we'll be serving breakfast and lunch.
Okay?
Motion is still special.
And there's no alcohol there for the sale, and it's happened there before. They did this before when they
Yes,
were
sir.
there. And when are you planning on opening? Because I haven't seen any of the, from the Board of Health, have you had it checked out and done all that? Because you're gonna need to get everything through the Board of Health, so I think.
We've not yet had the Board of Health there. We're planning on having our first auction on July 19th and running it every Thursday after that.
So I don't think we could approve it until we see that first, but we could make it contingent upon seeing the approval from the building and the health department.
So moved.
Just so a food inspector goes through and checks.
Yes, sir.
make sure Everything's at the right temperature and all that stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
Aye.
Thank you.
So that means, we approved it, but
Okay.
that's pending. The health department has to give you the okay before Debbie will actually give you the license.
Nice.
Terrific.
Okay.
Once they give it to you, just come down and see me in the election office.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Do you need the original application?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, thank you for your patience, and now we'll take the agenda and back to its order. We have a transfer of a liquor license. Omar Fernandez, Inc. Okay, I recognize you, okay. We have the condo.
Yeah, last month,
All right, yes, we do.
Administrative mistake, that my office and the Secretary of State's office had represented to us that the name was available. We sent it in,
So what's the difference, real quickly, between last month and this?
corporation, new
Different
corporation.
corporation name.
Okay.
Attorney Miles and I have spoken about this. The only difference is just the name
Yeah.
of the corporation. All the financing and everything else is absolutely 100% the same.
Exactly.
$140,000 liquor
Yep.
license, condominium. da-da.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Very good.
Any
Any motion?
I didn't
questions?
go-
You do yourself?
I didn't go through the whole thing, but I sent it all.
Identical.
Yeah, I-
Who's in there?
yeah.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good luck, good luck. Okay. We have here on Tony's Pub, serving after hours.
Well,
I know. I was reading
Better that
past
way.
history,
if I could
over
just,
2 years.
Just, neither officer from that incident is available for tonight's hearing.
Well, first of all, I have no defense whatsoever. My bartender, Brad Ray, had a grievous error in judgment, which isn't quite the way I discussed it with him the next morning, a little more vehemently. Again, I can't make an excuse for this. I really, really tried to run a good establishment. I had a meeting immediately. First of all, I suspended him 1 shift a week for 4 months, which hurts him in the pocket. I didn't like to do it, but I have to show him a lesson. And then we had a meeting, and I came out with an edict that anyone, any violation that we can control, something that, you know, may occur that, you know, we didn't have the complete control of, that would be different. But a violation we can control, I'm firing him right away. So I've taken every step I can. I really feel I have a good staff. It just, it was a stupid thing to do. I certainly don't profit by it. When you say he's serving after hours, he's giving after hours. So it wasn't any, you know, any mode to make money. And again, I apologize to Officer Fucci who came in. If you would pass on that message, he's got enough to do to, you know, commit for something like that. I'm very sorry for that. That's about all I can say.
I just have one question. There was another individual involved too, that was in the police report. I forget his name, but did anything happen with him?
Well, Mr. Nardone, Andrew Nardone was our doorman. And I really have to say, he's quite a young gentleman. He no longer works there, but he came to me and he felt he did a disservice to me. He felt obligated that he should have been part of that to say, let's go, get everyone out. And he said, I don't want to be embarrassed you anymore. And so I can't say enough for the young man, but he no longer works for me. And he again.
And I think you said already, you talked to all the staff already?
Everyone. We had a meeting, and this is definitely a strict edict that's, you know, come forth.
Absolutely. I like the way you phrased it too, you know, violations that you can control. Exactly. And that's what it's all about, so.
Yes.
I'm comfortable.
Yeah, I have confidence that Mr. Nicosia will take care of this problem himself. Make a motion to accept the files?
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for running it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, anyone here from Kevin's?
Good evening.
Once again, for the board, Detective Paggy was on scene.
I'm Attorney Joseph Sano. I represent Kevin Stelter. This is Mr. Gary Ferraro, our manager.
Who is this? I'm sorry.
Kevin's.
Gary?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What are you saying?
Jim, maybe we can just have Officer Hagerty review this quickly for us?
Sure.
Want to give us a quick rundown?
Yeah, I'm reading from police report from 429. SIU officers, myself, Officer Haggerty, and Paul Holey were in Superior Central Ave. Officers passed by Kevin's Cultural Center, which was a licensed liquor establishment in Lynn. Officers noticed at the time it was 105 hours, and there were several cars still up front of the bar. There were also persons standing around the front door. At that time, officers entered into the establishment with the unlocked front entrance door. Once inside, officers there were several persons still inside the bar. Officers also noticed that there were 2 persons at the bar with drinks in their hands. One subject had a glass with a mixed drink, and the second subject had a full beer in his hand. They identified the manager as Sierra Swain. Swain was advised of officers' concerns from the subjects with drinks when it was after the 0100 hours. Ms. Swain was advised that the incident was reported to the liquor licensing board. Wayne was also advised that our last call should be at 12:30 and all drinks gone by 12:45 a.m.
So Haggerty, were they cooperative?
Yes,
Polite?
yes.
And Sierra Swain, she is the manager or the bartender?
The barman.
Barman. All right. Okay, what have you done to address the situation?
The thing is, we suspended Sierra for a couple weeks. She's a single mom, and she works at nights. It was total oversight on her part. Like she said, they were regulars, they were just sitting around. The guys outside were the bouncers that were trying to clear the area. And we have since spoken to everyone and just trying to keep them on point as to maintain what we need to do to stay open.
And what are you doing about last call?
Last call is at 12:45, and I think it's an oversight on her part, them being regulars. It wasn't like, a lot of people being served, because the night was, our nights have been very slow, and it's not a whole lot of people, so I guess it was a total oversight on her part.
I would suggest that you have last call at 12:30, and at 12:45, all drinks are off the bar.
Yes, ma'am.
And then everybody should be out of the bar no later than 1 o'clock.
Gary, the only comment I would make is, you just saw Mr. Nicosia leave, and we agreed to let him handle it himself, but you have an extensive history, that, just so you understand the difference here, that Mr. Nicosia did not, with his establishment. So you've got to be extremely careful. You've got to convince us that this isn't going to happen again, you've got things under control.
I may not be as eloquent a speaker as Mr.
I
Nicosia.
understand that,
But
I just want to know that you're aware.
I can say that, we've had our past, and I think we've been really trying to keep, ourselves in line. We can just try harder, that's all I can say.
I think the chairperson is right, you have to err on the side of caution. 12:30.
That is now
You
the time.
can't take, you're not in a position to take the chance to have any type of violation, I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You understand that?
And
I know it's been a long road for you, I know it's difficult, you've had a tough time, we've suspended your license, business has been tough, but you gotta be extremely careful. Extremely. You have to be a model license holder. Fortunately, because of what's happened in the past.
I am trying my best. And I do apologize for my sister not being here. She has asthma, and it's been really bad, so I do apologize.
And I do think perhaps you should take a page out of Mr. Nicosia's book and let your staff know that violations that you can control, that will result in your termination. I mean, that would be a step.
I know that they have made the effort, and you're right, there is a long history here, but, I was just noting since, in 2007, they had their hours rolled back to 12. It was a serious incident back then, that's almost 5 years ago. The only really serious incident since then, they just sort of minor when they had the, in summer of 2011. So I know that they, given the fragile nature of the business to begin with, they have, tried to be very, very careful and very diligent in that respect.
And I will state that, looking back at the record, even though there weren't findings for it, there was a lot of failure to cooperate.
Yeah.
When these, and this was nice to see, that it wasn't a locking of a door and then not letting anyone in, pounding on the door, trying to hide things. It was, the cooperation level, that's what we're looking for. And that was good to see, very good to see. A lot of times they were locking the door and not pounding on the door and, hiding of things, and that was nice, it was good.
No, that's it, I just want you to understand the difference there. You might be catching more of a break because Mr. Nicosia was just before you, we're trying to say it. You have to be very careful, you're not in the same position as he is, as long as we understand. Yeah, motion to accept the file of the warrant for, is that all right? Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what was that, a cutting back of the hours?
No.
I'm just, okay.
Check again.
I know.
Okay, now we have some communications. Letter from Paul Haywood regarding the Fort Wynn, very good letter. I just wonder if this letter was forwarded to the operators of the Four Winds. Pros and cons, and perhaps we should see to it, we get a copy. Would you like to take time to read the letter?
He refers to the last meeting. I'm not sure if he's talking our meeting or sometime in the distant past.
I think it was a past meeting, before my tenure.
He's going with two meetings.
Yeah.
Once before, they had the noise that was there, and there was soundproofing, and then that was done. And then there was transfer recently. And so they are.
Right, and at the time when we did the transfer, I do remember Mr. Coppinger advising the new owner that in the past there had been issues and to try to be a good neighbor because the neighbors.
It carries on the water.
Yeah, do tend to get up and out, so I don't know if we should just maybe perhaps mention it to the new owners, or should we have Mr. Haywood contact the owners himself?
Conference maybe?
Um,
I mean, that's what we've done in the past. I'm just saying that.
Four Winds Info Conference,
Okay.
just to let him know.
Yeah, that this is going on, and I'm sure he'll probably address it, and,
Absolutely.
because he made some
Can I have
nice
a
points
motion?
here, and he was
Motion
complimented.
to bring the Four Winds in just for an informative, what do they call it?
Conference, yeah.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yep.
I think this gentleman also lives right behind the place, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. We had a letter to the city solicitor for an opinion on relocation to the package stores.
And that'll be reduced to writing.
Okay. Letter from VN Market regarding new hours, which is gone by the wayside.
Simple files.
We didn't get it in time, okay. A letter from Community Brotherhood, Byron and Patron.
Simple files.
Okay. Decision letter regarding La Nostro Cafe, and also a notice from the ABCC on something irresistible and La Nostro. They're appealing.
La Nostra has been, the attorney and I have been discussing the possibility of sitting down with us and the possibility of a settlement on that matter. I don't think that's going to go forward. I spoke with the attorney, Mr. Zarola, this morning in regard to
Something irresistible.
yeah, something irresistible. They actually have the place under agreement now.
Yes.
And what they would, under new business, what they'd be asking the board to do is to rescind the revocation, temporarily making it suspended, so that they can transfer this license. And if this particular transfer does not go through, then the revocation would be back in effect in there. The purchasers want that license. They don't want to have to go through. They'd rather have a transfer of this. It's a cash purchase. He's going to be reducing that to writing in the form of a settlement to the ABCC. So I don't think we have to take any action on that. But I'll be, instead of going to the hearing, I think they're going to be requesting that it be settled to sell. And we've done this in the past, and we can draft up an agreement that will make it airtight, that if it falls through, he's not getting the license back.
He doesn't get the license back. And are we out of line if we ask, if we do this for him, that he not put in for an appeal?
No, he would be withdrawing his appeal.
He would withdraw,
If
okay.
we agree to this, that's actually the settlement issue of that. The appeal would be withdrawn and filed with the ABCC.
Okay.
And they've agreed to do that. He'll be submitting, he just called me today, he's submitting it to me tomorrow. So we don't need to take action on that, but I don't believe we're gonna be going forward on a hearing on that day.
Okay, good. All right, and then we have the following police report, O'Brien's Pub for a fight, and, I mean, I don't see where they had anything, so I want to just accept it. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like
And the
it's-
same thing with the Lido Cafe,
Yeah.
and I believe the same thing with Kevin's Cultural Center. Just accept it. Yeah, that was one where there were gunshots, but outside of the establishment.
Yeah, right at closing time.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Which is the par for the course for all these other incidents, right at closing
Right at
time.
closing.
Amazing coincidence, I know.
Deborah's, well, I think we have to bring him in some, don't mind.
Yeah, we sold the
Yeah, they sold it over mine.
hearing.
And the advertisement,
What is this? Yes.
What's that? Which is it?
which was printed off, was,
The what?
47 Central's website.
Oh, yeah, what's that? Oh, yeah,
Little,
yeah, it didn't, this. Oh, yeah, where'd you get that from, Deb?
It was dropped off in my office with no signature.
These guys don't get it.
What did
They
they do?
make up their rules as they go along. Well,
Was that like a happy hour type thing?
I don't know.
but they're going from, it's like a full week, is that?
Yeah, it's over,
It's over.
it's over, it's over.
We're probably should call in for a conference just to clarify it. Just so, it may not have been them. I mean, I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, some promoter. Whatever.
Just to clarify so that they understand that,
Yeah.
you know, if someone's out there advertising on their behalf,
Yeah.
that they can be held accountable for it.
Want to bring them in, Deb?
Yeah.
For conference?
Yeah,
Okay.
I wish we had a better
I know,
announcement.
right,
It's cut off. All right.
Is
Anybody
this
have
all,
any
just
new
looking at
business?
this letter,
Which one?
that we sent to 54 State Street, are you also working with them on, we told them they had to apply for a change of manager?
They haven't submitted it,
Okay.
so, and I haven't had any discussions with them, and I'll follow up with it.
I just noticed that as I was.
I think that was because the person said that this was the
Manager,
manager,
right.
he wasn't listed at the time.
Right, exactly. All right, any new business?
Motion to adjourn?
Any old business?
Second.
Always in order.